We begin our journey high above the Atlantic Ocean, looking down at a world that is vastly different from the one we know today. It is the year 1700, and we are hovering over the mouth of the Hudson River. Below us lies an island of emerald green, a jewel of dense forests and rolling hills surrounded by the sparkling blue waters of a pristine harbor. This is Manna-hata, the island of many hills as it was named by the Lenape people who lived here for centuries. But clinging to the very southern tip of this wild island like a barnacle on a rock is a small and fragile settlement. This is New York City. From this height, it looks insignificant, a tiny speck of civilization on the edge of a vast and dangerous continent. Yet, if we look closer, we can see the smoke rising from 1,000 chimneys in the forest of masts in the harbor. This settlement, occupying less than a tenth of the island, is the seed from which a global superpower will one day grow. In the year 1700, it is a city in transition. For 40 years, it was New Amsterdam, the capital of the Dutch colony of New Netherland. But for the last generation, it has been New York, a prize of the British Empire seized in a bloodless conquest. These two identities, the Dutch and the English, are locked in a struggle for the soul of the city. As we drift down through the clouds, we can see the jagged skyline of stepped gables, giving the town the distinct appearance of a Dutch port transplanted to the American wilderness. Our tour begins at the water's edge, where the churning gray waves of the harbor meet the rocky shoreline. The air here is thick with the smell of salt, tar, and rotting seaweed, mixed with the wood smoke that hangs perpetually over the rooftops. We stand before the massive stone walls of Fort Anne, known to the locals as the Battery. This fortress is the heart of British military power in the colony and the most important structure in the city. Its thick stone ramparts rise ominously from the water's edge, bristling with heavy black cannons that point outward toward the Narrows. These guns are the city's only defense against the French and Spanish fleets that prowl the Atlantic in this era of constant imperial warfare. We walk through the heavy iron gates of the fort and into the parade ground. Here we see the red coats of the British garrison drilling in the mud, their muskets gleaming in the sun. Life for a soldier here is hard and monotonous, a cycle of drill, guard duty, and drinking in the local taverns. Inside the safety of the walls stands the governor's house, a grand 3-story brick mansion with a manicured garden. This is the residence of Lord Bellamont, the royal governor who represents the authority of King William III thousands of miles away in London. To the common people on the streets outside, this house represents the distant and often uncaring power of the crown. Leaving the military precision of the fort, we step out into the chaos of the city streets. The first thing that hits us is the mud. In 1700, there are very few paved roads in New York, and a heavy rain turns the thoroughfares into sticky black swamps that can suck the boots right off a man's feet. We are standing at the bottom of Broadway, the main artery of the city. It is a wide dirt road that follows the spine of the island, running north from the fort. It is lined with elm trees that were planted by the early Dutch settlers, providing shade in the humid summers and a windbreak in the freezing winters. We walk north along Broadway, passing the simple wooden Lutheran church and the grander houses of the wealthy merchants who prefer the fresh air of this wide avenue. To our right, we see the Bowling Green, a teardrop-shaped patch of grass that serves as the city's first public park. Here, on a Sunday afternoon, you might see gentlemen playing bowls or children chasing hoops while cows graze nearby on the commons. We continue north until we reach the defining feature of the city's geography, the Wall. In 1700, Wall Street was not a metaphor for global finance, it was a literal wooden wall. It had been built decades earlier in 1653 by Peter Stuyvesant to defend the Dutch settlers from Native American attacks and English invasion. Now, however, the wall is showing its age. We see the rotting timber of the palisade fence stretching across the island from the East River to the Hudson. The wood is gray and mossy, and in some places the logs have collapsed entirely, leaving gaps that children and stray dogs slip through. Despite its dilapidated state, the wall still stands as a psychological barrier. It marks the end of civilization and the beginning of the wild unknown. We examine the stone bastion where the wall meets the defense line, seeing the heavy artillery placements that are slowly being reclaimed by grass and weeds. This is the edge of the world for the city dwellers. Beyond this wall lies the dangerous forest where wolves and bears still roam, and where the political situation with the powerful Iroquois Confederacy is always precarious. We pass through the land gate at the intersection of Broadway and Wall Street. This wooden archway is the only official exit for those traveling north by land. A heavy wooden door hangs on iron hinges, ready to be closed at sunset every night to seal the city off from the darkness. But we turn back to explore the heart of the town, walking down Wall Street toward the water. At the corner of Broad Street, we stand at the busiest intersection in the colony. Here stands the new City Hall, a severe building of red brick and white trim. It was financed by the wealthy merchants of the city and represents the new English order of law and bureaucracy. It is here that the Common Council meets to set the price of bread and regulate the markets. Just across the way, we see the Trinity Church rising above the rooftops. In 1700, this church is a new addition, its square tower standing as the tallest structure in the city. It is a beacon of the Anglican faith, asserting its dominance over the older Dutch Reformed traditions. The churchyard is already filling with gravestones, a reminder that life in this colonial outpost is often short and brutal. Turning down Broad Street, we encounter a ghost of the past. This street is exceptionally wide, much wider than any other in the city. This is because until recently it was a canal, known as the Heerok Gracht, dug by the Dutch to drain the marshland and allow small boats to bring cargo directly into the city center. It was modeled after the canals of Amsterdam, a touch of home for the homesick settlers. By 1700, the canal has been filled in because it had become a stinking open sewer, and the street has been paved over. But the width of the street remains a testament to the Dutch engineers who first laid out the town. Here we find the Merchant Exchange, an open-air meeting place where men in heavy powdered wigs and long coats gather to trade futures in grain and fur. The language on the street is a confusing mix, a babble of tongues. We hear the sharp clip of British English mixing with the guttural tones of Dutch, the musical cadence of French from the Huguenot refugees, and the various dialects of the African slaves who make up nearly 20% of the population. In New York in 1700, it is a global city, a melting pot of peoples drawn together by the promise of trade. We make our way to Pearl Street, which runs along the East River waterfront. This is the commercial spine of the city, the beating heart of its economy. In 1700, the shoreline is much further inland than it is today. The water comes right up to the edge of Pearl Street, and at high tide, the waves lap against the foundations of the warehouses. This is where the wealth of New York is generated. We see the Great Dock, the only sheltered wharf in the city where ships can tie up safely out of the ripping currents of the East River. The dock is a semicircular wooden structure, a hive of activity from dawn until dusk. We see sailors rolling massive barrels of flour and tobacco down wooden ramps, their backs straining under the weight. We see the weighhouse, a critical piece of municipal infrastructure. Every good that enters or leaves the city must be weighed here on the giant official scales to ensure that the taxes are paid to the crown. The city's economy in 1700 relies heavily on the flour trade. New York has a monopoly on the milling and bolting of wheat for export, and the air around the docks is often thick with white flour dust, coating the coats of the merchants and the cobblestones of the street. The architecture of the houses on Pearl Street and Stone Street is strikingly colorful and unique in the English colonies. While the cities of Boston and Philadelphia are built of wood or plain red brick, the Dutch houses of New York are built with a mix of yellow and black brick, often arranged in geometric patterns. These yellow bricks, known as clinkers, were brought over from Holland as ballast in the holds of empty ships. They give the city a warm, golden glow in the afternoon sun. The roofs are the most distinctive feature. They are steep and jagged with stepped gables that look like staircases leading to the sky. These are designed to allow chimney sweeps to easily climb the roof, but they also serve as a declaration of culture. We pause to admire a particularly fine house with the date 1690 wrought in iron ties on the front facade. We notice the heavy wooden front door, which is split horizontally in the middle. This is a Dutch door, allowing the residents to open the top half to let in light and air and chat with neighbors, while keeping the bottom half closed to keep out the wandering pigs and chickens that roam the streets as scavengers. We step closer to inspect the front of the house. Every home of status has a stoop, a raised platform with benches on either side of the front door. This is where the family sits in the evening to smoke long clay pipes and watch the street life. It is the social living room of the city, a place where business is conducted, gossip is exchanged, and courtships began. The stoop is a uniquely New York institution, born from the Dutch love of community and the need to stay above the muddy streets. Behind the house, we catch a glimpse of a garden. These are not wild English gardens, but neat, orderly Dutch plots filled with tulips, medicinal herbs, and vegetables. The Dutch passion for order and cleanliness is visible even in the dirt. We can see a woman in a white-winged cap tending to her cabbages, while a cat sleeps on the brick path. As we move deeper into the tangle of streets, we come to Maiden Lane. This is a narrow, winding path that follows the course of a spring-fed stream. Women gather here to wash clothes in the fresh water, the sound of scrubbing and laughter filling the air. It is a moment of domestic peace in the busy city. We follow the lane down to the Fly Market, the largest market in the city. The name comes from the Dutch word vlei, meaning valley or swamp, as this area was once a salt marsh. The market is a sensory overload, a chaotic symphony of sights and smells. We walk under the wooden shelter of the market stalls, where butchers are hacking at carcasses of beef and pork. The smell of raw meat and blood mixes with the scent of fresh fish brought in from the harbor. We see massive piles of oysters. In 1700, the harbor is teeming with oyster beds. Some of the shells are as big as dinner plates. Oysters are the fast food of the day, eaten by rich and poor alike, often sold by street vendors from wheelbarrows for a few pennies. Nearby, we find the meal market on Wall Street, where sacks of grain and corn are traded. The commerce here is fierce. New York in 1700 is a city of deal makers, a place where a man can arrive with nothing and build a fortune if he is shrewd enough. We see merchants arguing over the price of beaver pelts, brought down from the interior by Native American and French traders. The fur trade is still a massive part of the economy, and the hats of every gentleman in London and Paris depend on the beaver skins passing through these docks. We also see a darker side of commerce. At the foot of Wall Street, there is a market for enslaved people. In 1700, New York had one of the largest slave populations of any English colonial city north of Charleston. We see men and women from West Africa being inspected by buyers, a brutal and dehumanizing reality that underpins the wealth of many of the grand houses we have just admired. It is a reminder that this city of opportunity is also a city of oppression. We enter a tavern near the docks to escape the noise of the street. The Blue Anchor is a typical waterfront establishment, a rough-and-ready place. The room is dark, lit only by tallow candles and the glow of the hearth. The air is thick with tobacco smoke from long clay pipes. We see sailors drinking ale from pewter tankards. Water in the city is often brackish and unsafe, so beer is the beverage of choice for everyone, including children. The tavern is loud with the sound of sea shanties and political arguments. In 1700, New York is also a haven for pirates, or as they prefer to be called, privateers. Men who have sailed with the likes of Captain Kidd walk these streets freely, spending their Spanish gold and telling tall tales of the Red Sea trade. The line between a pirate and a respected merchant is often very blurry in this frontier port, and many of the city's leading families have ties to this illicit trade. Leaving the tavern, we head north toward the edge of town. We pass the African burial ground, a sacred space just outside the city wall. Because enslaved people are not permitted to be buried in the churchyards within the city, this open field has become their final resting place. It is a quiet, solemn area, a stark contrast to the bustle of the markets. Here, the community gathers to mourn and to celebrate their heritage, keeping alive traditions from Africa in the face of immense hardship. Moving further north, we encounter a stunning natural wonder, the Collect Pond. This is a massive freshwater lake covering nearly 50 acres of lower Manhattan. The The water is crystal clear, fed by underground springs and reaching depths of 60 feet. It is surrounded by green hills known as the Kalk Hook, or Lime Shell Point. We see men fishing in the lake, pulling out trout and perch. In the winter, this pond freezes over and becomes the center of social life, where the entire city comes out to skate on ice, using skates made of animal bone or iron. Beyond the collect pond, the city ends and the countryside begins. We are now walking up the Bowery Road, the main highway to the north. The landscape changes dramatically. We leave the brick and stone behind and enter a world of rolling farmland, orchards of apple and pear trees, and large country estates. We pass the gate of the Stuyvesant Manor, the vast farm owned by the family of the last Dutch Director General, Peter Stuyvesant. Here stands a famous pear tree brought from Holland, planted by Stuyvesant himself, a living link to the old world. The Bowery is a rural paradise, providing the food that feeds the city. We see heavy ox carts plodding down the dirt road, loaded with hay and pumpkins headed for the market. The air smells of sweet hay and manure, a sharp contrast to the salty air of the docks. To the west of the road lies the wilderness. In 1700, the area that we know today as Midtown Manhattan is a dense, impenetrable forest. It is a place of towering oaks, chestnuts, and hickory trees, some of them hundreds of years old. The woods are alive with wildlife. Deer, wolves, and even bears still roam the northern parts of the island. A traveler leaving the safety of the city wall needs to be armed and alert. We see the marshy wetlands of Lispenard's Meadow, a swampy area teeming with ducks and geese. The air here is filled with the sounds of birdsong and the croaking of frogs, a reminder that this is still a wild island where nature is constantly trying to reclaim the land. We follow the winding course of Manna-hata Brook, a clear trout stream running through the woods, sparkling in the dappled sunlight. We travel all the way to the northern tip of Manhattan to see the Spuyten Duyvil Creek. The water here is turbulent and dangerous, separating Manhattan from the mainland. The name implies that the water spins like a devil. We see the King's Bridge, a solitary wooden toll bridge that is the only land connection to the rest of the continent. The toll collector sits in a small shack, charging a few pennies for every horse and cart that crosses. It feels incredibly remote, a lonely outpost at the end of the world. Standing here, looking north into the Bronx, we are looking at the frontier of the British Empire. As the sun begins to set, we head back toward the city. The sky turns a brilliant shade of orange and purple, reflecting off the waters of the harbor. We watch the cows being driven down Broadway, returning from the common grazing lands to their stables behind the houses. The city prepares for the night. In 1700, there are no streetlights. When the sun goes down, the city plunges into absolute darkness. The only light comes from the moon and the faint yellow glow of windows. We see the night watch assembling at the city hall. These men carry lanterns and wooden rattles, patrolling the dark streets to watch for fire and crime. They walk the rounds, calling out the hour and the weather, reassuring the sleeping citizens that all is well. Fire is the greatest terror of the city. With so many wooden buildings and open hearths, a single spark can lead to disaster. We see leather buckets hanging by the door of every house, required by law, so that every citizen can join the bucket brigade in an emergency. We pause on a hill to look out over the darkened city. The smoke from 1,000 chimneys rises into the cool evening air, blending with the mist from the river. We can hear the faint sound of a fiddle playing in a tavern and the barking of dogs. It is a small, intimate world where everyone knows their neighbor's business. In this moment, it is hard to imagine that this quiet village of 5,000 people will one day become the capital of the world. We are looking at the embryo of a superpower.
Our journey ends here, leaving us with the memory of a green island in a brick village poised on the edge of greatness. The silence of the night settles over the harbor, broken only by the cry of a night watchman and the lapping of the tide. This is New York at the dawn of its destiny.